Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to Season 2 of It Came From the Sump, our series dedicated to the Necromunda Community Event, co-hosted by Dr. Drybrush and myself. It Came From the Sump as a vehicle-based narrative campaign set in the hellish depths of the Sump Sea of Necromunda. And on today's episode, we're very happy to present to you guys battle report number 1 of this community event. It is fought between my friend Big Puka as well as myself. My friend Big Puka is playing the Deep Ones, which is a House Delaque gang, versus my gang, the Rusty Nails, a Slaver Guild Outcast gang. And this video is actually kind of special for a couple of reasons. The very first reason why it's special is because the very first battle report of this community event, hosted by Dr. Drybrush. Check out his page if you guys haven't done so yet. Check out his channel with all the rules and details about it. If you guys ending up participating in this event, please send us photos, drop us a line on emails, send us images and videos talking about it. The more support we can draw from Necromunda, the better. The second reason why this battle report is also kind of important too is because for the first time in a while, I get to narrate one of my own videos again. I've been fighting laryngitis for a couple of weeks now, and so because I'm back to a healthier state, I can now actually narrate my own videos. And number 3, the reason why this is so popular is because this is my very first battle report in over a year. I've been busy doing my graduate school as of late. Haven't really had a time to throw down on battle reports and to do battles with my gaming group. So this is actually a very special video for me because it's the first time in a while since I've been able to make a battle report, especially set in Necromunda. Now, because this video is a little bit more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below so that we can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So that being said, we're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we'll show you photos as well as rosters of both gangs, and we'll come back with scenario rules.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Alright, so let's talk about the scenario rules for this one. This one's called the Sump Skirmish. In this scenario, both crews will get their entire gang, including both fighters as well as vehicles for the scenario. The deployment is quite standard, and for the gang tactics, we actually have a brand new gang tactic card called We Fix, and this is a gang tactic that's compliments of Dr. Drybrush. What you do is you play this tactic before an ammo test is made for any friendly fighter, and on our 2+ becomes your ammo roll test. Now, after you get done using the ammo roll test, you roll a d6. On a 1, you have no further further effect. On a 2 to 3, you gain the Plentiful trait, and if you get a 4 or 5, you gain the Knockback trait. And if you get a 6, you get the Sever and the Unstable trait. Now, the resulting trait applies into the next ammo roll, at which point the ammo roll becomes 6+ for the remainder of the battle, regardless of what it was. Now, this campaign takes place in the Sump Sea, which means that we will be using vehicle rules, and if you notice, we have green sump tiles directly on top of our tabletop. If a fighter ends up getting into the sump, they have to take a strength test every activation. If they fail, that means they drown in the sump and they immediately go out of action, so a further complication on this battle. Now, ending the battle, of course, is quite standard until only one gang is left on the tabletop. The rewards for this one is that the winner earns D6 times 10 credits, and if it's a draw, both gangs earn D3 times 10 credits. For experience, each participant earns 1 point of experience point. And for the reputation, you get D3 reputation points for the winning gang, +1 for fighting each other for the very first time, and also if anybody bottles out or quits early, they lose 1 point of reputation. So now that we're done talking about the battle report rules and the scenario rules, let's go on and talk about deployment. Alright, so let's go on and talk about deployment real quick. So my buddy Big Puka and I are throwing it down on this tabletop. Big Puka, as well as the deep ones of House Delaque, are deployed on the far side of the table, and my gang, the Resting Nails from the Slaver Outcasts, are deployed on the near side of the table. So that being said, let's go on and talk about our deployment and where our fighters are located at. Alright, so starting on the left-hand side of my deployment for the Rusty Nails of the Slaver Guild Outcasts. On the left-hand side, I have my vehicle Grievous, which is my light vehicle that is a battering ram, and on board that vehicle are my 4 members of my Slaver Entourage, which is Shingle the Corpulent, my Chainlord, Graham, Ironhand, my Shackleman, as well as Vandal Feg, as well as Regblade, my Pit Fighters. Next to me on the right-hand side, that vehicle is called Sundown. It is my Scum Racer that's equipped with a long last, and on board that vehicle is one of my Outcast champions. That character's name is Ursus the Boar. He's a champion's armed with a grenade launcher with frag and crack grenades, and right next to him is Errol DeVere, which is another Outcast hive scum who's packing a last gun as well as a reclaimed auto pistol. In the center of my deployment area as well, I have in the back is my leader Gothmog. He's my Beastman Hunt leader, who's also the Outcast leader for this gang. He is kitted out to kill with close combat weapons, especially the heavy cutter as well as a arc wielder. He's also got the brother archetype. He's also got a friends on collar because why not? Right in front of him is Lasher Hicks, one of my Outcast hive scum. He's got a stub gun as well as a shop wick, and also right in the front is Jasper the Junkie, who's an Outcast hive scum who's armed with nothing. The only thing he has is a dose of friends on compliments of my Kim dealer, Shady Arlendi. I decided to use the steady supply rule in order to get that free dose of Kims for him. And then right next to that, of course, we have Black Light on the left hand side there. That's my light vehicle that's got a grenade launcher with frag as well as crack grenades. Also on board that vehicle are 3 more of my fighters. I have Hark Hammerhand, who's one of my gangers armed with a shotgun. I got Reinhardt Rustlung, who's armed with paired reclaimed auto pistols. I also have Nicodemus Kern in the back, who's got a sawn-off shotgun as well as an axe. And deployed in the middle of the table using my Infiltrate special role is Corella Corsair. He is a Outcast champion with a Mastermind archetype. He's armed with a Hand Flamer as well as under artist suit as well as an axe. And that makes up my deployment for this battle report. So moving across the table is the Deep Ones of House Delaque, played by my friend Big Puka. In the back on the left-hand side, that is Sharagon, the 10 Eyes. That's his Master Shadow, who's his leader, armed with a long rifle with an infrasight. He's also got a Camelon of Coke. He's also got the Flicker as well as Zen Shootist psychic abilities for Chronomancy, as well as the Evade special role, so he's going to be very hard to take out. And then right in front of him is Ichabod the Arachno, who is a ghost who's got a last gun. Also on the left-hand side in the sump is the Shadow Runner, which is a Wraith. It's got a custom medium vehicle with heavy flamer. It's also got a ram, large transport cage, nitro burner, caltrop launcher, headlights, as well as tracked. And by the way, if you're wondering, yes, we're treating all of our vehicles like amphibious vehicles in this environment. It just makes things simpler for everyone involved. Also on board that vehicle taking part is Drila Deville, which is a Psygeist, who's also got Pyromancy. She's got the Fire Shield as well as the Molten Bolt ability, and she's also mounted up with a Psychomancer's Harness, so very deadly character taking point there. Also then the cargo hold are 2 more fighters, Feral Rod as well as Ichabod the as well as Sithar the Dagger. They're 2 ghosts, one's armed with a shotgun, the other one's armed with an autogun. In the back of the Shadowrunner is the Onmyoto Coven from House Tai. That's the alliance that my buddy Big Puka chose. On the left-hand side, that character's name is Shubashi Quietus. That's the Onmyoto Knolls, mesh armor, bolt gun, power sword, as well as respirator. Also the control scholar, as well as the psychic null ability, but I don't have any psychers in my gang, so that's not going to be a real concern for that fighter. On the right-hand side is Waibashi Bellis, the Onmyoto Telepath. She's got a refractor field, a shock stave, overseal skill. She's also got the telepathy discipline with fearful aura, mind control, iron willed, as well as inspirational, and she's also a sanctioned psyker, so a very, very dangerous little alliance there in the back of the vehicle. In the center of the table is Darkhand Mandoth, which is one of his phantoms. He's got a mesh armor as well as a grav gun as well as an auto pistol. He's also got the Overwatch skill. It's a very dangerous fighter over there because those grav guns can cause handling checks on vehicles if you're not careful. And then right next to him on the right hand side is Shis Sholai, which is a Piscean Spectre. It's got light armor, paired psychomatic claws. It can fly, so you can just go across the battlefield no problem. It's also got the fearsome skill as well as the divination ability with future sight as well as warp whisper's power. And on the far right hand side of the table, using the Infiltrate special ability with the From the Shadow skill that they have, is Astaroth the Mirelurk, who's a not cool. This guy's got mesh armor as well as paired serpent fangs, so extremely deadly, as well as auto pistol. He's also got the Catfall skill as well. And that's going to make up the deployment for this battle report. So that being said, both Big Pook and I go to top of turn number 1, and we roll off for initiative to see which of us has priority. So we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and I managed to get the initiative on this one, so the Rusty Nails of the Slaver Guild Outcasts will be going first for this one, which is kind of a good start for me because this is my very first battle point over a year. So the first thing I decided to do is activate Blacklight, which is my Scum Racer who's got the light vehicle with a grenade launcher. Also on board are 3 more of my Hive Scum. So because I decided to activate that vehicle and send it forward with a normal moon allowance, and for it to open fire with its frag grenade launcher against my opponent's Nutghoul. So you can see I see my vehicle going forward 7 inches. I then take a basic action, open fire with my grenade launcher, firing a crack grenade directly at Astaroth the Mirelurk. Hopefully I could take that guy out. Crack grenades cost 2 damage. I also got knocked back, and with a toughness of 3, I should be able to get that pretty well. So I decided to open fire with my firepower dice. So I do manage to hit Astaroth the Mirelurk, which is great. Managed to put wounding on him as well. I didn't manage to break through, however, with his. I didn't manage to break his knockback ability though, so that part was kind of sad. But I did manage to put 2 wounds on him. Unfortunately for me, though, when it came to the injury dice, I rolled a flesh wound. So because Astaroth the Mirelurk is perfectly fine, he's just currently pinned right now. Now, granted, he is only toughness 2 now because he did lose a point of toughness with that flesh wound, but he's still strength 4. And he still's got a pair of serpent fangs, and this guy is extremely deadly in close combat. So not taking the aggression without doing any kind of payback, my buddy Big Puka decides to do a group activation with Darkhand Mandoth, who also has a group activation with Shish Sharalai as well. Unfortunately for him, though, he realized he is actually out of range to open fire with his grav gun, so because he's got to spend the entire turn moving both of his fighters. The Piscean Spectre flies over Double's movement allowance directly to the right-hand side of the tabletop in order to add some support for Astaroth the Mirelurk, which I'm absolutely terrified of because that thing can probably wreck vehicles no problem with those paired Psychomancer's claws. At the same time, he also activates Darkhand Mandoth on the left-hand side, who does a double action to get directly onto that catwalk, going over the Sump Sea and trying not to drown. So for my next activation, I decided to activate Gravios, which is one of my Scum Racers. It's the battering ram vehicle on the left-hand side. It's also bright red. At the same time, I also want to secure my left-hand flank because what I'm going to try to do is ram my vehicle directly into the Shadowrunner, and hopefully I can sink that ship. Because even though Gravios is a light vehicle with that ram ability, I can just charge forward, cause a lot of damage, hopefully take out that vehicle in one shot, at the same time sink all the vehicle crews that are on top of it. Not to mention, I also have my Slaver Guild entourage with me as well, so these guys could also throw it down in close combat with their chain glaives and everything else, so it just only seems fair to move them up as quickly as possible. So moving Gravios, I do a move activation, moving out twice, moving about 10 inches. I don't want to go my full 14 just because I don't want to be countercharged by the Shadowrunner, and I just kind of park him here on the left-hand side under that bridge. That way I can also have my Slaver Guild guys disembark from the vehicle on top of that walkway, get to the center part, occupy some good defensive positions, and fight my opponent in close combat. Unfortunately, all good plans never survive first contact with the enemy, and this next activation proves that. My buddy Big Puka activates Sharagon of the 10 Eyes, his Master Shadow, who also has a group activation with Ichabod the Arachna, which is his ghost, who's armed with a last gun. For his first activation, he actually has Sharagon of the 10 Eyes take a basic action to aim with his long rifle with infra sight, so that way he doesn't miss at all, so long as he doesn't roll a 1, and he decides to open fire directly onto my vehicle, Grevios. Now, originally I'm okay with this because I'm like, hey, this is not a big deal, my vehicle, but I forgot. My vehicle is a light vehicle, not a medium vehicle, and the disastrous results are brutal. So he takes aim, he opens fire, and he wrecks Grevios with one single shot. He gets a catastrophic blow against my engine of my vehicle, and unfortunately, because the light vehicle only has one hull point, and so it causes 2 damage, so kaboom, my vehicle goes explosive. Because of that, a couple of bad things end up happening. First of all, the driver of my scum racer for my vehicle, he gets killed with a memorable death. So not only does Sharagon the 10 Eyes gets those experience points for killing my vehicle, but he also gets another bonus one for putting another kill on top of my driver. So that part was absolutely brutal. And unfortunately for my vehicle, Grevios as well, it's also suffered damage to bodywork. So because it loses 1 toughness to its front, side, and rear. These things are only toughness 3. I forgot how vulnerable light vehicles were. I was just kind of creating something that was fast and dangerous, not realizing that it could be just shot off the table with 1 shot if it's well placed. So that part is horrible. So now Grevios is sitting there in the sump on fire, sinking beneath the sump waves. And to make matters worse, it causes my crew to scatter as well. They get flung out of the vehicle because the vehicle gets wrecked. Vendel Feg as well as Graham Ironhand, they're both pinned right now on the Sump Sea. Meanwhile, Shingle the Corpulent, my Chain Lord, as well as Red Blade, one of my other pit slaves, they're perfectly fine. But for those guys, I have to take strength tests. Otherwise, if I don't, they go out of action. And that's only the first of his fighters being group activated, so he goes back directly towards Ichabod the Arachna, which is one of his ghosts. Ichabod takes a basic action aim with his last gun, so that way he gets +1 to hit, and he takes another pot shot directly at my Chain Lord, which is Shingle the Corpulent. To add insult to injury, he does manage to hit Shingle the Corpulent, but luckily for me though, I do pass my armor test, so because he's perfectly fine, he's just currently pinned right now. And like I said before, my guys have to take if the next time we activate these guys, they have to take a strength test, and they fail the strength test, they go directly into the drink. Now for Shingle the Corpulent, that's not going to be a huge problem because he is strength 4, but from the rest of my fighters though, they're strength 3, so it could be kind of risky for those guys. And speaking of which, because I don't want my guys to die, I decided to activate Red Blade, my pit fighter, first. She takes her strength test, and luckily for me, she does pass her strength test, so because she doesn't sink directly into the drink. So for her activation, I do a move activation, having her climb out directly onto that center platform, falling in right behind Corella, my Corella, which is basically my champion who's armed with the Flamer. So Corella, Corsair, as well as Red Blade will be able to hold down the center for me on this battle. So going back to my buddy King Big Puka, he decides to activate the Shadowrunner, does a move activation in order to move it directly from beneath the little highway sign on the left way of the battle, going in directly to that little center area on the middle of the map between the ruined tower as well as the center block. That way he can block any kind of access to try to outflank my buddy Big Puka. At the same time, he can take his fighters and also dismount them as well. And that's when I decided to take advantage of the situation by activating Corella Corsair, which is my Outcast champion. She's going to do a single action move up and another basic action open fire with her Hand Flamer. So as you can see in this photo, that's exactly what I decided to do. I decided to yell flame on and just set these guys on fire by covering them with a sheet of flaming promethium. Luckily for me, from my template attack, I'm able to capture all 3 fighters, Drilla DeVille, as well as Feral Rod, as well as Sithar the Dagger. Managed to put all 3 of those guys under that template, so it's absolutely fantastic. Now, unfortunately for my friend Big Puka, though, he doesn't have any armor for any of his fighters, so because I managed to put 2 of them out of action with Sithar the Dagger taking a convalescence, so because he goes directly into recovery, and we managed to capture Drilla DeVille, which is the side guy, so it's absolutely cool, because then I now have leverage against my buddy Big Puka, and that's going to be only more kinds of fun in the scenario as well. Unfortunately, I was not able to actually wound Feral Rod. I was able to put a flesh wound on that guy, so he survived, so he's now only toughness 2, which makes him easier to injure, but he can still fight, he can still shoot, still cause all kinds of problems, so I do have to worry about that fighter still. So with that, we go back to my buddy Big Puka. Does a group activation with Subashi Quietus as well as Waibashi Bellis. Waibashi Bellis is a leader character, so she can do group activation with her Amiano Null. So now I gotta see exactly what these House Die fighters can basically do. So Big Puka starts with a Waibashi Bellis, his Amiano Telepath, decides to use a control collar so that way she has the ability to use her discipline, her telepathy discipline. She does a simple action over move up directly forward in the Shadowrunner and puts her directly within range to trigger her mind control ability for the telepathy discipline. Managed to pass that 5+ willpower test without any problem whatsoever. I do try, of course, to stop it by passing my intelligence test, but I am having intelligence 8, which is not that great. So because of that, Corella Corsair is now possessed by the Amiano Coven's telepath. So unfortunately for me, Corella Corsair decides to let those intrusive thoughts in, turn 180 degrees, and opens fire with a hand flamer directly on my 3 surviving members of my slaver entourage, targeting Shingle the Corpulent, Graham Ironhand, as well as Vandal Fig. So that part was absolutely insane. Now, all things considered, I actually got quite lucky on this one. Nobody actually got set on fire, so everyone passed their blaze test, which is great. However, though, Vendel Feg does suffer serious injury, so because he is now sinking in the drink, which is a bad thing for him, managed to put a wound on Graham Ironhand, my Shackleman, so he's got one more wound left, so that part was quite lucky. And oddly enough, Shingle the Corpulent was perfectly fine, so all things considered, that was actually quite lucky for me on my part. So now that Waibashi Bellis is done, we now activate the Amiano Null, Subashi Quietus. He actually does a simple action move of forward so that way he can get to range. He decides to open fire with his bolt gun directly at Red Blade, which is one of my pit fighters for my slaver entourage. Managed to roll 2 shots directly against Red Blade, put 4 wounds directly onto my pit fighter, so because she goes crashed in the ground face first, and also goes out of action as well, so she gets bled out for this one. But that's okay though, because she is a member of my slaver entourage, she just has a out cold result, so she'll be able to come back next battle. So this next part of the battle report, because most of the actions is dedicated to my fighters, I just pretty much use them at this period to activate the rest of my fighters. Now, Vandal Feg and Graham Ironhand. Unfortunately for those 2 guys, they failed their strength test, so they go into the drink, and they go out cold because they drown into the sump as well. At the same time, my Corpulent, my Shingle the Corpulent, which is my Chain Lord, he does manage to pass his strength test and does a move activation to go directly onto the top of the center platform, leaving the rest of his slaver entourage to drown. And I forgot to mention this during this whole process, Feral Rat did manage to get back on his feet again and try to open over the shotgun directly onto my slavers, but unfortunately though he missed his shots, so I got really lucky on that one. And since the rest of the turn is my guys being activated, the next thing I do, of course, is to dismount with my fighters. I have my fighter, Hark Hammerhand, actually, sorry, not Hark Hammerhand, Reinhardt Rustlung, take point first with his paired auto pistols, as well as the smoke grenades. They take a basic action, get off of Blacklight, and another simple action to move forward. Right behind him is Nicodemus Kern, which is my Hive Scones armed with a sawn-off shotgun as an axe. And then, of course, right behind him, of course, is Hark Hammerhand, which is my Hive Scone armed with a shotgun with sawn as well as scatter ammo. That way they're not stuck on the vehicle, they can dismount and hopefully just take out Astrogoth the Mirelurk with just some overwhelming fire. For my next activation, I decided to go with Sundown, one of my light vehicles. It does a move as well as shoot activation with his long last, but unfortunately I missed my shot, so I don't cause any problems whatsoever with that. At the same time, I also do a group activation with Ursus the Boar, which is my champion armed with a grenade launcher, as well as Errol Devere, which is one of my scum who's armed with a lasgun. They both take a basic action to dismount from the vehicle and another simple action to move up. So Errol Devere climbs to the top of that cargo container, so that he has a good range of sight with his weapons directly onto the Shadowrunner. And then right beneath him is Ursus the Boar, who's my champion armed with a grenade launcher. In my further areas activation, I do a group activation with Gothmog, my Beastman Hunt Leader, as well as my 2 fighters, Lasher Hicks, as well as Jasper the Junkie. Jasper the Junkie takes point. That's the fighter who's got nothing but just friends on, as well as positive thoughts. He takes points, followed by Lasher Hicks. And of course, Gothmog follows up closely behind me, trying to climb across that walkway directly to the center platform. And that pretty much ends turn number 1 for this battle report. So here's an average shot at the end of turn number 1. Lucky for us, none of us had to take a bottle test, even though my slaver entourage is pretty much non-existent anymore, which is kind of sad. Most of my fighters are occupied in the center island right there, making their way directly towards the Shadowrunner. I also got another group of my fighters on the right-hand side, heading directly towards Shish-Shaberlai, which is the Piscean Spectre, as well as Astroloth the Mirelurk. This battle report so far is becoming the classic example of a small elite gang versus a mob gang, me being the mob gang and my buddy Big Puka being the elite gang. And so far, he is cleaning house by destroying my vehicles as well as causing my slaver entourage to drown as well. So with turn number 1 over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2, and both Big Puka and I roll off for initiative to see which of us has priority. So that takes directly to the top of turn number 2, and once again, I managed to get the initiative on this one, so I have priority, so I'll begin my very first activations on this turn and start taking the pain directly towards the deep ones. And my very first activation, I decided to activate Blacklight once again. This time, I'm actually taking a basic action for to aim his vehicle's weapon with his grenade launcher, and another basic action open fire with his crack grenade directly into Shish-Shaberlai. Because the way that my buddy's champion is positioned, he's kind of uncovered by that cargo container there on the right-hand side, so the closest target I can go after is Shish-Shaberlai, which is, of course, his more dangerous threat, which is the Piscean Spectre. And luckily for me, I managed to one-hit that guy and send him out cold directly back to the warp where he came from. I managed to hit him, and I also managed to get the knockback on this one as well. So I managed to put 3 wounds directly onto Shish-Shaberlai. Unfortunately for my opponent, though, with his light carapace armor, he did try to roll the 5 up he needed in order to survive. But unfortunately, though, he failed. So because of that, he does immediately go for the injury dice. When he rolls it, he rolls a skull, and because that, he gets the out cold result. So just like that, that Piscean Spectre is off the tabletop. And that thing is pure nightmare fuel, so I was really lucky I was able to get that shot off. To make things worse for my buddy Big Puka, though, Astroloth the Mirelurk had to take a cool test in order to see if he stands his ground. Now, you would think you should be okay because he's got a 6-up cool, but unfortunately for my buddy Big Puka, he rolls a 4, so because that Astroloth the Mirelurk does fail his cool test, he goes back, I think, 7 or 8 inches directly back to that shanty building and try and take cover just because he doesn't want to get blown away by a grenade launcher. And to be all fair, I really can't blame him. So for Big Puka's next activation, he decides to activate Darkhand Mandoth, who's armed with his grav gun. I'm absolutely terrifying because he's actually within range to open fire with that thing directly into Blacklight. So he takes a basic action aim, another basic action open fire, and he rolls a 1. So unfortunately for him, his shot is way off, and of course, lucky for me, the shot does scatter, doesn't cause any problems as well. So I got extremely lucky on that one, because if that Graviton Pulse managed to hit my vehicle, it could have caused us to have a handling check. I could have failed, and I could have lost a second vehicle in this battle report. So going back to my turn, I decided to do a group activation with Ursus as well as Errol Devere. Ursus the Boar actually decides to have Errol Devere go first. Errol Devere takes a basic action aim with his last gun and makes another basic action open fire with his last gun directly into Darkhand Mandoth, which is the champions on the catwalk on the top of the screen. Now, I do manage to hit Darkhand Mandoth, which is great, but unfortunately I'm unable to wound him. But because Darkhand Mandoth is on that walkway, he does have to take an initiative test. And unfortunately for my buddy Big Puka, he rolls a 2. So because that Darkhand Mandoth falls off of the walkway and lands directly in the drink, and then when he has to make a group activity, he has to do a strength test for this guy, because otherwise if he doesn't by the end of the turn, he's going to go drowning directly to the bottom of the sump. For my next part of my group activation, I have Ursus the Boar take aim with his grenade launcher and open fire with a frag grenade directly at Feral Rod. Managed to hit him with a 3-inch blast template and also managed to catch Shubashi Quietus, which is the Amiel Null as well. And unfortunately, I forgot to take a photo of this, but I did manage to put the Feral Rod out of action. He didn't have any armor on him at all. He was only toughness 2. We rolled for the injury dice. He actually rolled a skull on that one, so because he does go out of action. But luckily for my buddy Big Puka, though, he only gets a flesh wound. Meanwhile, the other fighter, which is Shubashi Quietus, his null, also gets pinned by the grenade fire. And I forgot to take a photo of that. I do apologize. It's been over a year since I did a battle report on my channel. So because that Big Puka decides to actually do a group activation with his Waibashi Bellis, which is Amiel Telepath, he decides to actually use the Overseer skill, manage to pass her 8-up leadership skill, is actually quite impressive, in order to do double activation Shubashi Quietus. So Shubashi Quietus actually got up and opened fire with his bolt gun, only got the 1 shot, but unfortunately got an ammo roll on this one, and when that 1 shot that he did open fire directly at Cruella Corsair, he managed to miss that shot by rolling a 1, so that part was disastrous for my buddy Big Puka. Now, normally my gaming group and I don't really do tactics cards. The reason why we don't is just because it's added expense to get them, and we just kind of like the game as it is. Tactics cards was more of like a gotcha kind of game mechanic, but in this video, though, we decided to use a tactics card because my good friend Dr. Drybrush made one for the week, and it's called We Fix, which of course has been given us to Crow's Nest Firearms because they will try with their weapons, which is kind of great. Now he takes this tactics card and gives his bolt gun an automatic 2-up ammo roll, so because he will be able to re-roll his ammo, be able to reload his bolt gun for his next activation for Overseer, and he has to roll a d6 to see what his result ends up being. On a 1, there's no further effect. On a 2 to 3, you get the Plane Infiltrate, which is great for a bolt gun. A 4 or 5, you gain knockback. And if you roll a 6, you gain Sever, but also the Unstable ability. So that's one thing that's quite bad. Luckily for Big Puka, though, he got the We Fix It with the Sever Unstable trait, so now that bolt gun is unstable, which is absolutely terrifying, and because of that, he got another group activation with his character because he's under subjection of Overseer, so he takes another basic action, aim with his bolt gun, and he decides to open fire with his bolt gun directly into Corella Corsair. Unfortunately for my buddy Big Puka, he misses his shot. He only got the 1 shot plus the ammo check, and this time now his ammo check is back to a 6 up. So of course he rolls an ammo check to see if he can get it back. Unfortunately for him though, he fails the ammo check, and because of the weapon is now unstable, he rolls to see what happens to the weapon, and the weapon explodes, putting Subashi Quietus directly out of action. Now, luckily for my buddy Big Puka, it is part of a delegation, so he's going to make a full recovery, no problem. But just like that though, he loses his null from an exploding bolt gun was Sever and Unstable. So Dr. Drybrush, you're watching this video right now, man. That tactics card, that thing is insane, brother. So rest of the turn is pretty much dedicated to my guys because it's all pretty much left on the table. So I do a group activation with Gothmog, as well as Jasper the Junkie, as well as Lasher Hicks. All 3 fighters do move activations, getting up and over the cargo container with Lasher Hicks, as well as Jasper the Junkie taking point, followed up with Gothmog. Hopefully I can get those guys stuck in as soon as possible to cause all kinds of problems for my enemies. At the same time on the right hand side as well, I have my characters also move up the right hand flank, directly to the island on the right hand side. Now, during the end phase, of course, we have to start taking strength tests for guys who are still stuck on the sump. And unfortunately for Darkhand Mandoth, he failed his strength test, so because he does go drowning and he suffers a convalescence result. So because of that, he immediately goes out of action and also straight into recovery. And while this is all going on as well, unfortunately for me, my buddy Big Puka decides to pull out just because he's losing a lot of fighters. He doesn't want to lose everybody he has on his gang for the very first game of the campaign. So he basically kind of decides to bottle out as well as surrender early just to kind of cut his losses. And at the same time, also ending a victory for yours truly. So that being said, we're going to directly to the post game because this battle report is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Alright, now it's time for the post-game. This is the part of the battle report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we could do next time for the next time we do battle. This is the after-action report for battle report number 1 of our Necromunda Community Event taking place in the Sump Sea between Big Puka and myself, and it ended up being a victory for yours truly. So let's talk about Big Puka's gang, the Deep Ones of House Delaque. First of all, for injuries, Sith Lord of Dagger as well as Darkman Mendoth also suffered convalescence results, so because they both go into recovery and they'll miss out on the next battle report. Now, Drilla DeVille got captured by the Rusty Nails. Now, normally whenever you have a capture like this, there's a couple of things you can do. As the one who actually captured Drilla, I could hold her for ransom, and of course my buddy Big Puka could try to buy her back in some way, or we do a rescue mission in order to save Drilla DeVille from being captured. Now, unfortunately though, those options are not available for Big Puka or for myself, and the reason why is because I am in an alliance with the Slave Guild, and I do have what's called Slave for the Pits, which is one of my drawbacks of being a Slaver Guild alliance, which means that any people I capture automatically get surrendered to the Slavers Guild, and that person disappears directly into the pit fights for the Slavers Guild as well. So unfortunately for my buddy Big Puka, he lost Drilla DeVille, which is actually a really expensive fighter for his gang, and she will never be able to come back or recover. So because of that, that fighter gets deleted off the roster. Meanwhile, Feral Arad as well as Shish Shilai, they make full recoveries because they both got out being cold results, so they're perfectly fine. Now for the advancements, no member of this gang advanced yet, even though Sharagon of the Ten Eyes does have 6 experience points. Big Puka decides not to spend those. He wants to save those to get some more stat increases for his fighter. Now from his territories, he does have a settlement, so he gets 1 point of reputation for that. He also managed to drum up 60 credits from that settlement as well. For alliances, he has no change taking place with his alliances at this time. And for his trading posts, he decides to spend all 60 credits. He spends 45 credits for mesh armor for Sithar the Dagger, Feral Larod, as well as Ichabod the Arachna. So now those fighters have a 5-up armor save. And he also spends another 15 credits to purchase auto pistols for Sithar the Dagger, Feral Larod, as well as Ichabod the Arachna as well. Now for reputation, he does earn 1 point of reputation from the settlement, as well as 1 point of reputation for fighting against the Rusty Nails for the very first time. Unfortunately, because he bottled out in order to escape, he does lose 1 point of reputation, which brings him to 2 points of reputation in total. His new record now is at 0 wins as well as 1 loss, and unfortunately his gang rating dropped from losing Drilla DeVille. He's actually got a gang rating now of 1,535 credits. So for that, we go directly to the top for the Rusty Nails, which is my gang, which is my Slaver Guild Outcast gang. Now for my injuries, Grevios, my vehicle, got a damaged bodyworks and loses 1 to its toughness, which drops its front, side, as well as rear toughness to 2. So that was absolutely horrible for my gang. And at the same time, my crew member for that vehicle also died as well. So that part was horrible. Now for my other fighters I lost Graham Ironhand, my Shackleman, Red Blade, and Vandal Fig, which are my 2 pit fighters from my Slaver entourage. Now all 3 fighters of course make full recoveries because that's what they are when they have delegations with your alliances as well. Now for advancements, I got a bunch of experience points for my fighters, but I decided not to spend any of my experience points yet just because I want them to rack up a little bit more so that way I can get some better stat increases for my fighters. Now for my territories, for my settlement I got 1 point of reputation as well as earning 30 credits, and I rolled a 6, so I was able to recruit a new Outcast hive scum for free named Stuka Duquesne. At the same time, I also earned a brand new territory for my gang, which is a fighting pit territory, which narratively also kind of fits because I'm also with the Slavery Guild, so it ends up being cool. I don't get any income or bonuses from that, but at the beginning of every battle, I can recruit 2 hive scum with equipment for free before a battle, which could be really important, especially if I roll low on a random crew selection type of battle. Now for my alliance, I am in alliance with the Slave Guild, so because when I captured Drilla DeVille, instead of holding that person for ransom or allowing Big Puka to come and rescue her, I have to surrender to the Slave Guild. I have no choice. I get no bonuses or benefits whatsoever from actually capturing anybody. So because of that, she got sent to the slave pits, and she has disappeared into the ether as she now spends the rest of her life fighting in gladiatorial combat until the day she dies. And because I did that, of course, my alliance with the Slave Guild is still secured. Now for the trading post, I was able to earn 30 credits from my drug dealer, my chem dealer, which name is Shady Norlandia, for fixture skill. I earned 30 credits from her fixture skill. I got 40 credits from my territories as well as 50 credits from my scenario as well, and at the same time netting me a grand total of 120 credits in total. With those 120 credits, I spent 20 credits for Shady Norlandia's dose of Frenzon that I used for Jasper the Junkie, so I was able to pay off that ability real quick. I also spent 20 credits to replace my Scum Racer for Grevios, so Grevios 2.0 is now alive. He's going to be driving that vehicle for the next time it gets out of being repaired. At the same time, I also spent 40 credits for reinforced armor for both Sundown as well as Blacklight, giving them both an additional hull point, giving them hull points too, because I had forgot how fragile light vehicles were, and that was absolutely scary for me. At the same time, I also spent 40 credits for mesh armor, Alaska, and axe for my brand new Outcast hive scum, Stuka Duquesne, who ended up being in my gang. Now for my reputation, I earned 1 point of reputation for my settlement as well as 2 points of reputation from the scenario, and I also get an additional bonus point of reputation for fighting against the deep ones for the very first time, which brings my grand total reputation of 4 points in total. My new record now is at 1 win and 0 losses, and my new gang rating now is at 1,840 points. So there you guys have it. That is battle report number 1 for our Necromunda Community Event taking place in the Sump Sea in the books. First victory for me in a very long time because it's been so long since I was able to do a battle report. And once again, this community event that's being hosted by Dr. Drybrush and myself, it is open for the entire community out there. So if you guys are doing battle reports, you're doing projects based on this, send us photos, send us comments. If you want to make a video, please do and send us a link. We'll both love to see another new battle report on Necromunda, because the more Necromunda people play, the better it's going to be for the community at large. So please feel free to share that information with us. We'd love to see exactly what you guys are coming up with. up with. So that's good for this video. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. I am Commander Cheapskate. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out and stay classy.